Hello, my name's Phil McLeod and I am the current president of the Sydney Woodturners Guild. I've been turning now for about 20 years, and this morning we're going to show you how to deal with acrylic. Now if you get online you will see lots of videos, particularly through YouTube, of people turning acrylic. One of the problems I've noticed is nobody really teaches you how to deal with acrylic. At this point I should say thank you to Terry Spinolo, a very good friend of mine, who taught me how to deal with acrylic. Terry unfortunately is no longer with us, but Terry, wherever you are, thank you. Acrylic is different to wood. Acrylic is a plastic. So if you don't treat it properly, it can melt, particularly when you're sanding. It can cause, it just won't give you a good finish. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is teach you, or show you rather, how to deal with acrylic when you turn a Sierra pen. This is a Sierra pen. It's one I made a few years ago. It has a printed circuit board type finish, and I did that because I'm a radio technician by trade training, and that took my fancy, so that was one I made. But you can use acrylic to turn normal twist pens. In fact, you can use it for any of the normal pens that you might want to turn. Click pens, you name it, you can do it. When you get the pieces for a Sierra pen, they will come in a packet, and they look something like that. Okay, so they look something like that in a packet. Acrylics, well, these are samples of commercially available acrylics, and it is by no means the full range, but you can see they are square in section, and you'll have to cut them to length and drill them. You can also, though, if you're really interested, make your own. And these two, this particular one was given to me by a gentleman who came to visit us from Detroit Woodturners several years ago, and the other one, the clear one, is one that I just made. I thought it would be interesting to sort of see how a clear pen looked. I haven't made it yet, but we'll get to it one day. With these acrylics, you have to drill them out so that the brass tube can also slide into it, because this is important. This is what everything will push into eventually. Okay, so the first job is to drill it. Now, some people drill on with their drill press. That's fine. I like to use the lathe, and the reason I like to use the lathe is I know once I get it lined up, the drill will go right through the center of the piece. It's not going to go at a strange angle. However you're comfortable drilling it, do it that way. The only thing to say is be careful. Okay, if you see the video on which lathe to buy, in that video I alluded to the fact that there is one feature on my lathe behind us that I didn't like, and that is very simply that to advance the quill in the tailstock, it has a lever action. It's the only lathe I've ever encountered that has a lever action. All the others use a winding wheel. It's just one of the little differences. There is a problem with the lever action. As I drill through and get to the end of the piece, it could blast out on me, which is not a nice thing to happen. So I'm careful and I'm okay most of the time. So be aware of it, with particularly if you're using your own lathe to drill it, that be careful of that blast out. Once you've drilled it, you glue the brass tube into the blank that you've created. Now, in my case, I tend to use epoxy, something like ACRYLIC, to do that. Other people like super glue. Whatever you prefer, you use that. This is one that I've already done. This is in fact the one I'm going to use to show how to deal with acrylic on the lathe. But once you've got it glued up and you're happy that the glue has gone off, you will need to get the ends correct. Now you can use something like this, which is a pen mill, they call it. It comes, you can buy it from the same place you buy the pen mandrel. Now the mandrel looks like that. Okay, so wherever you bought your mandrel, you can buy the mill. Personally, I don't bother with the mill anymore. I simply do it on a disc sander and make sure the ends are parallel. But there is one thing to watch out for, no matter whether you're using the pen mill or the or a disc sander. You need to see that little brass ring. Okay, once you get that little brass ring, you know you've gone as far as you need to go with sanding or the pen mill. Okay, so that's how you do it. Now be aware, those tubes I talked about, the brass tubes, come in different sizes. Okay, so as a result, you will need different sizes of inserts. Okay. To that end, if your pen mandrel looks like mine, then you may need to use some packing material. Now these are just old, these are pens that failed for some reason. Possibly the brass is too thin, or who knows, but they failed. So I keep these and use them for packing material. Okay. Once you've got it cut to size, glued up, the next step is to mount it in the lathe, except if you're using a square section like this, when you've got it mounted, the tool hits that corner, it's going to jar, bang, 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 bang. What I like to do on a belt sander, I take that corner off and then mount it up in the lathe. It's just a little trick, might help you. Okay. I'll see you in the next part. This is a series, obviously, and I will see you in the next part when we're ready to actually turn the piece.